Welcome to the sports news on CW57. I'm Ryan Ashker, and here are today's headlines. The Road to the Rest Center has started for several area girls basketball teams as the WIAA state tournament bracket has been released. Locally, the Badger and Big 8 conferences are well represented with Janesville-Craig, Madison-La Follette, Madison Memorial, Janesville-Parker, Middleton, Madison West, Sun Prairie, Madison East, and Verona all battling for a shot to play at the Rest Center in Green Bay on March 13th, with sectionals taking place on March 5th and 7th, as those teams attempt to finally capture a state title. In Indianapolis, the National Federation of State High School Association Football Rules Committee expanded the unnecessary roughness rules to include contact with defenseless players in order to continue the national focus on risk minimization in the game of football. The new rules also expand penalties for spearing or leading with the crown of the helmet, and beginning next season, an automatic first down will not be awarded for a 5-yard incidental face mask penalty against the passer. News from Madison Memorial. Athletic Director Jeremy Schlitz has announced former Madison Mustangs head coach Adam Smith as the 7th head football coach in the 48-year history of Madison Memorial High School. Smith spent 7 years with the Madison Mustangs, formerly of the Mid-States Football League, including 5 league championships. Smith's coaching career has also had stops at Madison East, Reedsburg, Stoughton, and Madison West prior to joining the Mustangs. Coach Smith will join us later in this program. The Wisconsin Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, or WIAC, has announced the members of the 2015 Hall of Fame class. WIAC Commissioner Gary Karner noted how difficult the selection process is, given the WIAC started the Hall of Fame just 2 years ago and the 102-year history of success in the conference. In the future, the WIAC will induct a Hall of Fame class every 3 years with the ultimate goal of recognizing those whose contributions and achievements have established and solidified the WIAC's statue as the most accomplished Division III conference in NCAA history. The 30-member 2015 class will be inducted into the WIAC Hall of Fame banquet held on August 1st at UW-Platteville. UW-Whitewater captured its 4th consecutive WIAC Wrestling Championship at Culf Sports Center Fieldhouse in Oshkosh on February 15th. The conference title is the 16th in program history and the most in WIAC. UW-Whitewater compiled 162.5 points en route to the team title to surpass UW's lacrosse second place total of 138.5. The Warhawks won 5 out of 10 weight classes at that meet. For the second time in just over 2 weeks, number 6 Edgewood College heads to Milwaukee to face number 3 MSOE. The Raiders swept both regular season games against the Edgewood Eagles, despite falling to the Raiders twice this season. The Eagles have a large lead in an all-time series over the Raiders at 42-6. The last time the Eagles played MSOE in postseason play was during the 2009 NACC tournament, when the 3rd-seeded Eagles beat the 6th-seeded Raiders 67-53 at the Edge Dome. Those are your headlines. We'll be right back with more of the sports news on CW57. And welcome back to the sports news. I am now joined by new head football coach at Madison Memorial High School, Adam Smith. Adam, thanks for joining us here today.
I appreciate for having us on.
You and I go way back, so it's great to have you on kind of our first show here of the sports news. Well, when we look at Memorial and you coming in, what is the direction of the program? What are some of the goals you want to accomplish?
Well, I think number one is to increase numbers and really give the kids a sense and the families a sense of community. It's something that's been needs to be improved, and we're looking to improve it from that way from our coaching staff, the way that we've structured that, from some of the things that we're doing with the kids, starting with the weight room and really pushing them into other sports of the school and the community, some community service. We're looking at building a gridiron club, a booster club, to help with fundraising and help with some of the administrative things that I have to do on the side, so that I can concentrate more on the football roles. And I think we brought in a good staff, a polished staff that are really going to be able to teach the kids and give them insight into the game of football to really help them and prepare them for the season.
And you mentioned your staff. You have a coaching tree for being, a younger guy that you are. You already have a coaching tree established. Who are some of the guys you brought on, or tell us a little bit about the rest of that staff that's going to be helping out at Memorial?
Well, I think our key guys, is Brad Murphy. He's been a player for us. He played for us, and when I say us, I mean the Madison Mustangs, semi-pro football team that I coached for 7 years. And he comes from us from Madison West, and prior to that, he won a state championship with Monona Grove as their offensive coordinator. So he's coming in as our defensive coordinator. We brought some of our Madison Mustangs back, including you, and helping out with Pat Rohde, Dave Hepkin as our quarterbacks coach, Jeff Supernaw as our head JV coach. So Chris Sinetti is another key addition. He has ties to Wanakee and Verona, and won a state championship with Wanakee as their offensive coordinator. So I think that's a huge thing. Bringing back George Grays and Brian Bergen and Tim Richardson also. And so we wanted to have guys on our staff that, number one, loved kids. Number two, were hungry and hungry for that knowledge and want to be better. And number three, really had a great high IQ background as far as football and a championship pedigree, so to speak, and know what it takes to get up that mountain.
Some of our CW viewers might recognize you. You'd covered some football for us last year. Take us back before you covered football. What's your history in coaching? What are some of the things you've done?
Well, I started at Madison West as a special teams and position coach receiver and moved up into Reedsburg, Stoughton, Madison East as a defensive coordinator. So I've been around a little bit around the area before taking over the Madison Mustangs in 2007 and having a great run there. And last year I had the opportunity to be back in high school football as calling games for CW. So it was a great opportunity. Never thought I'd have that opportunity ever, and something that I really was honored to do and had a lot of fun with. And it gave me an opportunity to really get a look at a lot of the area teams and what's going on in high school football, because I've been out of it for about 8 years. So.
New Madison Memorial head football coach Adam Smith. Adam, thank you so much for joining us here again today.
I appreciate it.
And welcome back to the Sports News. My next guest is a boxer, coach, and a promoter at Ford's Gym. He is James McIntyre. James, thanks for joining us here today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. So boxing in Madison, a lot of our viewers might not be sure where to find that, what's going on with it. So what is the state of boxing in Madison? How many fighters do you guys actually work with?
Right now we got about a good 11 guys that are solid, that are there all the time, and it's beautiful because we have all races, nationalities. We got Asian, black, white, Puerto Rican, Mexican, and usually, you bring that type of combination together and it causes fighting, but now it's the fighting that's bringing everybody together. So it's just a fun and beautiful situation to have.
All right, great camaraderie in the boxing gym at Ford's Gym. That's great to hear.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have anyone that's really active, maybe some up-and-comers that we might be hearing about around the area, some guys that doing quite a bit of fighting?
Yeah, we got 4 guys that are going real strong right now. We got Chris Owsley at 165 pounds, real nice straight punches down the middle. We got Marcus Johnson, probably the best defensive man we got in there, a real good technician, works hard. We got DeMarco Carter, who just, I've never seen anyone with his hand speed that's like that up close, man. I've never seen anybody move that fast. And then we have Brian Guzman, who just hits harder than anybody. A little guy, but he's like fighting Superman.
Thank you. So I'm going to have you put your promoter hat on here for a second. You've had 2 shows over the last 2 years. Turner Hall in June of 2013 and the Monona Terrace in November of last year. What can we expect for boxing fans in the area for 2015?
Well, this year we're going to try to have, I've been doing 1 show a year. I'm going to try to get 2 this year. So I'm going to try to do another one on the same dates we had for the last 2. So I'm trying to do 1 coming up in June, and then we're going to try to get another one at November, and they'll probably both be at the Monona Terrace. So we're looking forward to doing those.
Fantastic. That's a great venue. What people might not know about boxing, you have the gyms, things like that around the area. If someone was interested in learning more about boxing, maybe getting involved, where would they go? Where are you guys located?
We're located at 2114 Winnebago Street. If somebody really was interested in getting involved, they could give the gym a call, or they could call me, myself, or Coach Angie Nelson. And they got a beginner class there. It's a beautiful thing to start with. And if you can't absolutely make the beginner class, then either I, myself, or Angie could help people out, on their times. But you got to be serious in order to do that.
Understand. And there's another facility inside the building you share. I believe it is Twisted Fitness. What's that all about? Can you tell us some more?
Oh yeah, Twisted Fitness, they specialize more in the MMA stuff. So they do a lot of kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, and it's ran by Mark Platkin and Sonia Barton. And they're just amazing. If your name is not David Blaine or Chris Angel or David Copperfield or somebody, the holes that they put you in, you're not getting out of. If you're not some type of magician or escape artist, man, but they're really good at their craft. And yeah, you got to go down there and check them out.
All right, folks, well, you heard it. That is James McIntyre, once again, boxer, promoter, and coach at Ford's Gym. James, thank you very much for joining us here today on the Sports News.
Appreciate it. Love being here.
We'll be right back with more sports news right after this. And welcome back to the Sports News. My next guest is a flanker and former captain of the Wisconsin Rugby Club, Jake Winkler. Jake, thanks for coming in today.
No problem, man. Good to be here.
Fantastic. So, a little bit about rugby. Not really the most popular sport in the area. I think with some of the things people are familiar with, maybe it's the international sevens that have been on TV down in Las Vegas, I believe. Is that kind of similar to what the Wisconsin Rugby Club does?
Yeah, there are two versions of the game that are played. Sevens for the club teams, which is what we're playing on, is usually reserved for kind of summer. It was mostly like for fun. It wasn't played at a real high level until very recently, but now there's a whole national playoff structure for it, and it all plays through from June until the end of August. Play right through that, but most of us got our start playing the full 15s match, which is the format that has been popular around the world for a long time, and that's what we play year-round. We go regular season in the fall, playoffs in the spring, so it takes up most of the year.
Fantastic. That's a long season.
Not much time off, just the winter.
How many teams are in Madison? How many teams are maybe around the area that lets you guys compete without, having to drive hours on end?
Yeah, so the national structure's got a couple of division levels, same as you're familiar with in high school football. So we play D2, which is second from the top. We play teams in Chicago, Minneapolis, and Iowa. We don't have to travel much farther than that for a regular season and branch out, obviously, depending on how far you make it after that. We also have a D4 team that plays just locally in Wisconsin, so they go Green Bay, Oshkosh, Milwaukee, those types of areas. And then the high school teams stick pretty local, same conferences for the most part. Obviously not as many high schools have teams for rugby as they do for other sports, so they have to spread it a little bit, but it still stays pretty local.
So is that maybe a tier down from the teams that we were seeing on in the sevens from Las Vegas?
Las Vegas had both international level play, so you saw a bunch of that. They also had club games that went on starting about Wednesday that week, rolling up until the international started on Friday. So the stuff that was on NBC was just the internationals.
Sure. Okay. Where and when do you guys play? How does the season lay out? Where can people find you?
Right. We got our own fields out in Cottage Grove that's kind of run by an umbrella organization known as Madison United Rugby. So that gets play from the men's and women's club teams, as well as the university teams, both men and women, and the high school teams all get shots to play out there as well. So the senior teams will play there most frequently because that's our home field. The other ones will use it occasionally if they need to. There's a lot of tournaments that get hosted there as well. And so that's out in Cottage Grove. The address for that's on our website.
Yeah, what about spectators? If we wanted to come out and watch, some of the rugby matches, how can spectators get out there and take advantage of that?
Yeah, most of the regular games are just free to show up to, and we welcome spectators. We got a big bleacher section there that's ready for them because we're envisioning that place hosting big tournaments. And then when we do host big tournaments, say like a college Big Ten tournament that's got, a rugby team from every university in the Big Ten, which has happened there before. It's like, then we fill that place up and we'll charge admissions on those ones. But for the most part, it's free to come.
All right, that is Jake Winkler from the Wisconsin Rugby Club. Jake, thanks for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me.
And welcome back to the Sports News. My next guest is owner of the Madison Squash Workshop. His name is Damon Bourne. Damon, thanks for joining us here today.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about squash. I've never played that before. I'm sure a lot of our viewers have not. What is squash?
Squash is an indoor racket game. It's not unlike racquetball. It's a little bit of a shorter court. It's a little wider, but you play with a longer racket and a smaller ball. It makes for a lot of running.
Not bad. A workout indoors. So why do a squash club in Madison?
Well, we have a great community for this. We have a fairly diverse community from people from all over the country and all over the world. And because it's an indoor sport and it's freezing out all the time here in Madison, we have a perfect climate for it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
How does someone get started in squash?
Well, we're the only club in this. We're the only official squash club in the state of Wisconsin. So you'd have to come and play at our club. We have any number of leagues going on, so people can come in. We've got lessons. We have a full-time working pro who gives lessons, and we do everything we can to get people on court and hook them up with other players of similar abilities. So that's what my job is to do. So.
What about on the day-to-day basis? What goes on at the club? Looking at you, it looks like a beautiful facility. What's kind of the day-to-day of the Wisconsin Squash Club?
Well, on a day-to-day basis, people are always reserving courts and playing, but we offer a Wednesday night league, which is really well represented. We have people from the club who play. We've got about I'd say 35, 40 people play in that league, and that gets going every week. We also have box leagues, which is just an ongoing thing where people play and they set up matches, and that goes on pretty much every day.
Sounds like a good opportunity to maybe learn the game a little bit more. What about kids? When do people generally get started playing the game? Are there any kids playing right now, and how young do you start teaching them?
We have kids as young as 3 years old playing. We have a Tiny Tot program that meets every week on Saturdays with 3 to 6 year olds, and then we have groups of older kids from there on up.
Well, fantastic. Damon, thank you for coming in today. That is Damon Bourne, owner of the Madison Squash Club. We'll be right back with more of the sports news right after this. And welcome back to the sports news. Now I'm joined by the head basketball coach at Edgewood College, Justin Meyer. Justin, thanks for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me.
So you guys finished your regular season up the other night. What lies next for Edgewood?
Well, we just finished up at Lakeland the other night and got a nice 62-60 win, and that means we qualified for our postseason and got a home game, so a top 4 seed in the postseason. So now we're just getting ready for the NACC tournament.
And that begins over the weekend, I believe. Who are you guys going to be playing, and what is kind of your outlook going ahead?
We're actually going to be playing Lakeland College again, so a pretty quick turnaround. There'll be a 2-day turnaround, and then we'll be playing them again. It'll be our 3rd time playing against them this season, and at this point now it becomes a one-and-done scenario where winners move on, and hopefully we'll be getting 2 more games after that.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Before becoming head coach, you were an assistant at Edgewood. Talk about that transition a little bit. How did that go from going to an assistant to now you're the head guy?
I think there's a little bit more of a challenge when you go from being an assistant in the program that you're already in to being the head coach there. There's a little bit of a change as far as the role that you take on with the players. So I think once we got adjusted to that, it was pretty smooth sailing. I was fortunate enough to work for 2 head coaches that really let me get my hands involved in a lot of aspects of the program. So I felt very comfortable and ready to kind of take over that role. I think the biggest difference is just, that relationship changes with the players a little bit, and you now become the guy that gets to take on the blame for pretty much everything.
Players get the credit when you win, coach gets it when you lose.
Yep, and that's the way it should be.
Yep. So one of the disadvantages of working with college as opposed to the pros is you only get your players for a maximum of 4 years. From what I understand, you have a number of graduating seniors. Can you tell us a little bit about those guys and what they've meant to you and your program?
Sure. We have 6 seniors this year. Dylan Roosh, Tal Diekvoss, Joe Klosick, Trevor Neal, Derek Brock, and Matt Savatsky. And these guys were guys that I recruited as an assistant when they were in high school. And our relationship has changed over the years. And to see where they've grown and really how we've grown together in our program. They were guys that were part of a conference championship team as freshmen, and then we had to take our lumps a little bit when they were sophomores. We played really young 2 years ago, and last year got back to the conference championship finals and hopefully can get there again. But just to see the growth that they've had and the leadership that they have as a group has been something. I'm really proud of this group, and I'm going to miss them.
Understandable. Been through the journey with them.
Yeah.
So what you're looking at, not only are you the coach, but being with D3, you're going to do a lot of that recruiting as well. What are some of the things you're looking for when you're out on the road or maybe watching video of some new athletes to try to bring in at Edgewood?
Sure. Well, to me, the two main things are the quality of character. Are they a good person? Are they going to want to do the right things off the court? And then the academic side of things. I always say the best part about our program are the guys that we have in it, and they're guys who achieve off the court and get involved in community service and things like that. They're guys that achieve in the classroom. We had a team GPA of 3.2 first semester this year. So.
Great. Well, once again, the head men's basketball coach at Edgewood College, Justin Meyer. Justin, thank you very much for stopping by today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We'll be back next time on the Sports News. I'm Ryan Ashker.